So hi, I'm Valina. I'm a second year management student in AI. I'm here with Wojtek, and we're thrilled to be hosts here today. And this was organized by 6 different European universities, and we're representing the Kozminski University here in Poland. And our role is to craft education material such as this webinar. And we're here with Piotrek. Hi, Piotrek.
Hello, nice to meet you, Paulina, Wojciech.
And we were discuss more about like low code, its potential applications, and the future of technology. So can you
Okay.
tell us like more about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. So once again, my name is Piotr Kurzynoga, and I'm a data development specialist currently at Oracle. But just to present myself, or just to talk about a few facts from the past. So I originally studied electronic and computer engineering at University of Limerick, which is in Ireland, actually. And from there, actually during my course during college, I did an internship in a telecommunications company in the Netherlands, where I've spent around a year, and that was a great experience as I've learned how to deal with customers, and also I have had both hands-on experience on some software and hardware. So that's the best of both worlds for me personally. Um, and from there, that gave me a very good starting ground to go on to my next job. So once I've graduated, I went on and started my job at SAP, or SAP, how some people called, where I have worked with partners and customers, basically assisting them and supporting them on some of their own in-house developed solutions, specifically for SAP systems. And that's kind of where I also got a chance to work quite a lot with ERP systems and the whole kind of business ecosystem. And that's where I also got a chance to learn quite a lot about how all of these different business processes work, since I had no business background previously, right? So I got a good understanding of all the supply chain management systems, the end-to-end kind of procurement, and well, the whole ERP world essentially, since the partner ecosystem touched every module of the ERP world, let's say. And well, having that, I have then went on and started my adventure in Oracle exactly 3 years ago, where I began working as a solution engineer, covering quite a lot at that time, which was also a great new challenge for me personally, as I was in charge of pre-sales for both cloud and on-premise systems, and that actually covered the whole Oracle portfolio. So as you can imagine, that's quite a lot of products, and coming into the Oracle world as well in that case was, yes, it was like, wow, that's a lot of products, you know. So there was a lot of learning involved, but it gave me also an opportunity to see once again how all of that business knowledge that I have previously acquired translates to and applies to then the customers that actually use the different solutions. In this case, also some of the Oracle ERP systems, right? And how that kind of cycled and continues from support, you know, to pre-sales to sales, and the whole end-to-end scenario was then quite clear to me. So afterwards, I've kind of picked a direction that I wanted to follow. So I went into the data management part, where I was working with all the different databases, right? So from, let's say, the smallest ones to the biggest ones. So from like Express Edition to Exadatas, in this case, working on different migrations, all kind of different scenarios that you can imagine. Also doing health checks, so seeing if an existing setup needs some performance improvement, and also advising on different solutions and architectures, to understand how certain integrations fit into a scenario that also involves, let's say, different multi-cloud solutions, right? Or perhaps how we can connect, a MySQL database or a Microsoft SQL database to this whole scenario. And one part that I'm skipping for now is the low-code part, and that's quite on purpose. So all of that time, while I was at Oracle, right, I was learning all of these things, but there was this side hobby that was present, and that was precisely Apex. So while I started actually, I have found Apex as a really interesting product, and all this time while I was working on all of the other tasks, right? I had always Apex in the kind of back of my mind, and I actually managed to, develop some solutions for the team that actually assisted us with daily work, that improved some business processes, and I just thought it was a great way of doing that, knowing some other tools out on the market, and being like a Java/C++ programmer, I know what effort is required to, create an application, right? So being able to create those applications in such a short time was truly great for me. And I guess that brings us to the present day, right? Where I'm mostly focused on Apex solutions, and all the bits around it, and that's what my day-to-day work looks like currently. So I'm kind of being a developer evangelist when it comes to Apex. So talking with customers, advising them, building also architectures with Apex in focus, doing webinars such as this one as an example, right? Or writing blogs and articles and so on that can help promote the solution, but also what is important for me, that people can actually see the benefits and see the different possibilities that are available or possible with low-code solutions in general, right? So that brings us precisely to the low-code part.
Yeah, I think your actual journey is so impressive, and I really admire it. And this is why we are actually meant to meet today about slow code. So, what is actually the slow code part? You said that you have a lot of experience with that, so please tell us and our listeners about the low code right now.
Sure. So low code in general, I believe in some way or sense was there always with us, or there were at least the beginnings of it, and it has been evolving, over the years. But essentially, low code is nothing else but a way to rapidly develop applications, or to fill in different gaps in business processes with, a minimum amount of effort, and usually with automated graphical components that are generated, and all the different business processes that are usually also pre-created for you, where you just have to fill in the different gaps, or just to build the workflow itself without having to understand how to deeply code, or how to perhaps you don't have to be an expert in UX design or something like that. And those are difficult pieces. If you've ever done a project, then you know how hard it is to come by a good UX designer, and then it's even harder to actually implement that then and make a nice final product. So all of those benefits, right, where it's much easier to learn. As we know, if we start, as I've mentioned already, with something like Java or C++ or any other language for that matter, we need to understand all the different libraries that are involved. We need to know how to specifically invoke them, how to use them, how to consume them, and that tends to take quite a lot of code. So it also means that it doesn't take us a few hours, but it's taking us a few weeks to implement such a solution. And I guess that's where the less code boosts the faster innovation cycle, and we can adapt to different changes a lot quicker. I guess that is something that is also prominent through the BeeAPEX project, right? And it has helped you meet your requirements in perhaps a lot shorter time than you would usually. I'd love to also hear more about that, but once again, the benefits just kind of don't end, and I'm a big fan of this particular cycle, let's say, as I call it, because I think it really shows, or at least it's very easy to picture the whole low-code scenario and what we really get from it, you know. So starting with skills, right? Once again, where it's much easier to pick up and it's a lot easier to get started, really, because that's always the hardest part. So if we have a learning curve that's kind of easy to take on, we can then, of course, specialize much easier once we have at least an understanding or a basic understanding of the topic. Now, from the business perspective, that also means that our time to market is a lot quicker, as we're actually able to develop those applications with perhaps less resources involved. So this means less cost for the business ultimately, right? And the last part, most important for me, innovation, is where we can actually take risks, because we know that it is a much less involved effort to start a project. So we can take risks and try to innovate new processes, right, or improve existing ones without spending weeks on it. So that's exactly the kind of agile process almost of low code when it comes to the methodology that is involved in creating those applications with all low code platforms essentially, but Apex as well, of course, in this case. And just talking about Apex, right? It has been doing quite well in the market. So last year it was the Gartner's Customer's Choice. So I guess that means that it is quite the useful tool out there. And I don't like talking about competitors. I think it's always best to see what a solution is capable of, and that should then give the answer to the person who's seeking it, right? So speaking about the low-code market in general.
I have one question
Yes,
regarding Gartner. It predicts that by 2025, like 70 of new applications developed by enterprises will use low code or no code technologies. Could you share your thoughts about it?
So that's precisely where I'm going. So yes, I mean, the low code market is growing extremely rapidly, and I do I do believe that the adoption rate currently is quite high as businesses seek to cut costs, and of course they want to fill those gaps in their processes, as mentioned previously. So it is very prominent, as I'm working with all the different customers, I can see how they're actually adopting those technologies and how they're really looking at ways that they can. Once again, I like that word because it really resonates with what low-code does, fill in the gaps of their businesses, but not only fill in the gaps, it also a lot of the time replaces legacy solutions that they have in their companies, in their enterprises, and that a lot of the time also allows for more innovation. Give it an example. For example, forms and reports is a quite old solution, right? Where people were able to build reports and see all the different data based on their database. But the solution is quite limited and doesn't offer all the different facets as Apex does. So it's Apex is a natural replacement for forms and reports. And once we're able to, let's say, transition from that environment to Apex, we can then, of course, replace the form and report functionality because Apex does that very well. But then we have all of the other possibilities that can be built on top of that. And that's how the adoption usually starts, right? So we start from a small use case. We start from a small business needs, and then those business needs tend to pile up, and there tends to be more and more and more of them. And suddenly, from one Apex application, we kind of have 50, and that's, I guess, a direct representation of the let's say 70% applications or new applications developed by organizations will be using low code, because that's exactly how that adoption translates to how the organizations are employing Apex, and they can see the benefits, directly, because we can build an MVP in 2 weeks, right? And then perhaps a month later, if the implementation team is doing a good job, we can see that solution in production. So we've seen that, for example, with the likes of Sussex University, where they came to us. We had a conversation, and within 2 months, without or with minimal, let's say, external support, we were able to actually have a working solution, and that solution is now on the European let's say that the open market, right, for research, so everyone can access that application to use it for research purposes. And I guess that is the future of it, or at least that's how I also see it personally, since that development time, right, once again, is a lot quicker, and it's just enticing to everyone, and people really like to see what is happening, right? Especially when we look at management, they want to see results a lot of the time. And with low code, they can immediately see a screen, they can immediately see a page with some charts, with some reports, where when it comes to building traditional solutions, what we first have is usually all of the backend code, where it's not very representative, right? And only then we build the user interface around it. So that process gets quite delayed, and then the business can be quite impatient, as they don't fully, or not always, do they understand what exactly is happening in the background. So that, once again, ties into the whole process, right? Where we can develop, customize it, and rapidly adapt to the needs. I think there is this famous example, with the swing, right? And someone trying to create a solution for that particular problem. So with traditional code, it could take even longer to understand what exactly is required, and then changing and adapting that application to the exact needs can take even longer. But here, it's a matter of changing a few parts or modifying a few already built elements, which, you know, just once again rules in favor of low code. And that picture, I guess, really well represents what we're talking about here, right? From using all of the different elements of the stack to just having a single product that can integrate with all of these solutions. So that's low code in my opinion, right? And as well, I do think that it's going into the direction where its significance in the industry is just going to keep growing. And I believe that from an educational standpoint as well, while let's say legacy languages such as Java or C will always be there, right? Because we still need some connection to, let's say, the hardware in this case, right? Or how it all gets compiled from a technical perspective. But from the user point of view, low code will definitely be prominent, and it will be part of most courses because it's an important bit in today's IT world.
Wow, so it's so impressive what the logo is. I hope our listeners are understand the main values of what logo. And I would like to ask you more about what are your, let's say, advice for the individuals that wants to start their adventure with the low code. And do you think maybe on universities they should start learning as low code? To prepare us for the future, actually.
So I think there is a mixed response here. While yes, I absolutely think it's important to learn low code, I also think it's important to understand the whole ecosystem. So I think that it's good to get started and have an understanding of what low code is capable of. So, you know, that can be very easily done, as we have already, or as I have already mentioned. It's quite easy to get started with low code, right? There is a lot of tutorials available. There is free learning courses that can be taken that will show you the world of low code, and that will help you understand it. But it's also important to not lose focus on the whole stack, right? There is always things like networking. There is, you know, all of the different parts like security and so on that need to be taken into account. And while low code in majority takes care of that for you, right? So it's a secure solution, and kind of everything works out of the box. In the background, there is still a database or some other product where that low code application is fetching its information, as an example. So it's still important to not lose focus of those solutions. And while learning low code, still keeping track of all of these different technology pieces, even such as, you know, the DevOps processes, right? And building, let's say, different pipelines for integration between a development, a test, and a production environment, as all of these are still relevant. So my advice here is, when you have a need, you will be able to very quickly fill it with a local solution, right? So usually there is no need to pre-learn something. It's more about, okay, I have an issue. Now I know that low code exists. Let's just open up Apex as an example and try to implement it. And you might struggle for the first day, maybe the second day, because you're understanding, okay, these are the functions that I need. But then at the end of the week, you will more than likely have a working solution, and that is, I always believe that hands-on is the best way to learn. And in case of low code, it's just fully the same scenario, where it's all about kind of imagination and being able to use your creativity at the end of the day to meet ends. And with low code, there is usually quite a few approaches, so it's also up to you to decide, okay, this is the approach I will take. And as you learn the solution, then perhaps in a few months you will realize that the solution you have implemented could be done much better as well. And that is really the learning process that I see when it comes to low code. So I wouldn't just to sum up, I wouldn't solely focus on it, but I would focus on the whole ecosystem, just to have a good understanding of what we can do and cannot do with all of these moving parts present.
Thanks a lot for your answer. I think we can move to another part about more Apex thing and how the platform works right now.
Okay, sounds good. So we've talked about Apex, we've talked about low code, sorry, and now we'll talk more about Apex. So what is Apex? As claimed, it's the world's most popular low-code application platform. And once again, right, building scalable and secure, in this case, enterprise, but not only enterprise applications, as it can be used by anyone, right? And then we get the full kind of end product with a responsive environment, where we build a single application for mobile, desktop or tablet or whatever device it is. We just need to build the application once, right? And then we can access it from anywhere, essentially. And I guess the biggest message when it comes to the educational part from here is with things like the 23C developer edition, which is completely free. That's usually a good place to start, as that is once again free. You can leverage Apex with it. You can simply download a virtual or an image of the virtual machine with all of these components pre-installed, and use any kind of software to then open that image and start working with the solution already, start seeing how it works, and understand the capabilities of a database in general on top of that as well. And as we speak about database, it's important to see that Apex is not a usual application that you just install on your computer, right? Or it just works as a standalone part, but Apex is actually embedded in the database, and it's actually, Apex is actually a schema in the database. We want to go that far, as it stores its metadata in that schema, and then it is connected to the outside world and exposed through the web or the browser interface. So we don't have to install any additional software, right? All we use is the web IDE, and then that gives us also the very quick performance, because we're accessing the database, which usually is quite powerful as well. So just to give a few statistics on Apex in this case, there is now this figures can be a little outdated. So there is around 20 million plus apps created with Apex as of today, with just over 2 million of those applications actually being live and used in production. And at Oracle, it's the #1 go-to platform when new solutions are being created for internal use, right? So from let's say browsing through different organizations or people. That's done in Apex. To if someone is familiar with Live Labs, that is also developed with Apex and is available externally to anyone. So that's also another place where you can actually start your Apex journey. But yes, there is quite a large amount of apps being created daily, and it can really be seen everywhere. It's as I learn also myself, it's a lot of times not seen where and how Apex is used, but it is really everywhere around us, in every country almost, on different, let's say, levels, right? So from the government to the smallest organizations, they're all using Apex, and I guess that is also part, kind of going back to how it's taking on the market, right? And the kind of how it's like how when we look at the democratization of the market, we can really see that the low code is present there. Maybe not everyone is talking about it so much, but that is now being brought up to speed, and now people are starting to get interested in it more. But different partners and different companies, as well as government and in the educational sector, it has been there, it has been present, but it's not been as widely known for everyone. So yes, I do guess that this then translates to how that can influence the different users, right? The different external users, once they understand the capabilities and once they see what is really possible there, and learn that, okay, there are all of these different organizations that are using it, right? Then they are like, oh, we should probably have a look at it and give a low code, or Apex in this case, a try. So this point I was also going to touch upon, and when we were discussing, okay, who should learn Apex, right, and how that journey should look like, it's important to note that this is not only aimed at like IT students, right? I know I come from an IT background, so I concentrate on technology quite a lot. And yes, sorry about that. But it's important to note that even a CEO or C-level management can use and create Apex applications, right? And that goes the same for any business individual. For data scientists, really it can be anyone, and I guess that's the biggest difference between once again standard programming and the low code, where when someone sees standard programming from a business background, they'll be like, okay, I'm not doing this. But once you have an option to click a few buttons and actually create a ready product from it, that's a lot more interesting to someone, right? Because they understand that this is what they can achieve in a rather small amount of time, and that's exactly why we have this kind of representation that it really is. It can be a citizen developer or a professional one, or it can be anyone who's just interested in meeting that requirement. And mentioning that on the, once again, bringing the Sussex University example, when we started off, the researchers there, because that's who was working on the solution, they weren't familiar with Apex. I introduced them to Apex, and now they have a solution, right, without really having let's say programming background, as their focus is completely different, right, and they are not IT students. So this brings us to, once again, this whole scenario where we're reducing the time and we're able to bring those solutions a lot quicker. And lastly, just to cover the complete architecture once again, one part I've missed out is that there is actually something called ORDS in between the database and the browser, and that's just a way to expose the database to the outside world. The database usually sits, within a somewhere confidential, private, where nobody has access to. So we used the likes of ORDS, or some people might refer to it as kind of like a middleware server, right? So that's our bridge to the web interface and to all the mobile devices and so on. Okay, so this we've covered. We understand that Apex now can be used on any device, right? As it's completely responsive, and this is kind of the next interesting part where, once again, right, we have the no-code part, so anyone can use this. We have the low-code part where if you have some SQL knowledge, you can then do a little more, but then you can actually go quite deep. So for those, let's say, hardcore developers, right, that really wants to unleash the solution to its fullest potential, they can really customize it fully, and there is really no limitations as to what they can do. So that's exactly why we're able to meet the demand of all of these different individuals and all of these different levels of knowledge, with having kind of the different components and the different possibilities of expansion, then based on what you know and how you progress with your learning path in this case. And just having an overview of all the different components of Apex at a very high level, right? We have the application builder. We have the SQL workshop, where we can actually look inside the database and create some objects within it. We have a workflow capability with a graphical interface, where we can actually create the workflows so that any business user can then create that workflow, and then perhaps a developer can just fill in the gaps with the code if needed. We can also expose different APIs, which are also a huge thing nowadays, as there is a lot of third-party API consumption. Usually different businesses need to communicate with each other in some way, and that's usually done with the APIs. So maybe now thinking about it, that's another one that's worth to keep an eye out, and just to learn about, to have a good understanding of it. And then again, the DevOps part. So we have the DevOps tools. So that's once again going back to the development, test, production environment setup, where we want to bring that application, right, from developing it to then using it somewhere. And that does not happen in a single environment, but it usually happens in a 2, 3, or even a 4-tier landscape, meaning dev, test, pre-production, and production. That's what a 4-tier landscape is, right?
I would like to ask one more question about the last slide, actually, the last before that. Which, because you mentioned about no code, and actually I understand that no codes you don't have to actually use at all code to do this, so it's more similar to, for example, something like a Scratch or something like that. And I would like to ask, so what are the main differences and similarities between the no code and low code from your perspective? And is it easier to, for example, customize an app by low code or no code, in your opinion, of course?
Okay, that's a good question. And once again, I don't think there is a kind of a single approach to anything. So a mixed one is the best in this case. While a lot of the time you can fully get away with using no code. All right, so let's give a simple example. Now we want to create a simple report based on some data. We can do that with using 0 codes. at all, and that's quite easy to achieve, right? We select create a report, all of that is automated, the report generates, we can then display it. But once there is some more business complexity or more complex business logic involved, that's where we start going towards the low code part, as we do then perhaps need to add some more queries or some more complex SQL codes to what was originally generated, and that's where the gray area kind of exists. So going into the future, I can definitely see, and we'll briefly touch upon it later, but I can definitely see AI taking over that role in a large way, where the business users themselves will then also be able to generate those complex statements without necessarily understanding how to do it themselves, right? So let's imagine just saying, okay, now I want to extract the top 50 companies and sort them by the amount of employees, right? And something else, and then we'll also compare that against another table. And all of the text that I've just said, right, that they will just write that and they will get the SQL statement returned to them by using natural language. And that's how this gap between low code and no code will likely be merged by making more of these automations and by making it more natural to interact with these solutions.
Yeah,
Does that answer
thank
your
you
question?
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much. I think we can move over.
Okay, so we've covered this bit. So now we know that kind of these are the different parts that are involved or the components that Apex offers, right? And once again, there is a lot more possibilities to connect with different outside solutions, right? So it's not just, let's say, the Oracle ecosystem in this case, right? But we can leverage Apex with any existing solution. I like to say that Apex is the glue, as it can really be a good interface for connecting different data sources from different providers in a unified way, and we can then have that as our kind of go-to connector solution. And it's maybe not a fact that everyone knows, but while Apex is based on an Oracle database, you can connect, MySQL, Microsoft SQL databases to it, and you can also then query data from them, and that kind of goes on for many of the different integrations that you can see are possible here.
So I have one more question that came to my mind right now. If I will be like kind of entrepreneur and wants to build an app on, for example, Apex, is it easy to, for example, program and create my own models that I can use in this app? Is it possible somehow to create something new and, for example, share with the community? Is there any community?
Yes, absolutely. The community is quite large when it comes to Apex, and maybe I guess that's a part I overlooked a little. But Apex is all about the community in this case, right? It's at the end, we could say a free product, right? So there are quite a lot of contributors. I mean, there is probably like a million active developers around the world who are contributing to Apex, and we have the Apex community where people are constantly asking questions and they're being very active. They're if you have an issue, you can very easily go there and basically ask anything you want, and they will definitely help you. There is something that's also called. So let me just share my screen very quickly once again.
Yeah, of course.
So there is the APEX. So there is the APEX community. So you can look at all the different success stories as well, different magazines, or just ask questions. But more importantly, there is also something that's called APEX World, and that's where you can even find the job or post jobs for
Wow.
APEX developers. You have a complete list of, let's say, all the different conferences that are upcoming or happening, or meetups for that matter as well. And you can see that it is quite an active community, right? I believe there is one happening in Warsaw in the coming days as well. So it's a very active community, and I think that makes APEX quite unique as well on the front, as people that I have usually spoken to, it's just a good positive community that usually empowers itself, so people do try to help each other. And usually, even when we look at things like plugins here, so you can import and export plugins in APEX, and people actually go out here and do share and contribute, creating their own plugins that anyone can use. So let's imagine that, once again, going back to the low code, no code aspect, you are not sure how to implement a solution, right? So perhaps you want a QR code scanner, right? So you could just write QR code, and you can see that Ronnie Wise, who's actually an APEX, now he's an APEX developer working in the APEX development team. He's posted this plugin, right? So
Wow.
even APEX developers working at Oracle, they also post different plugins and share with the whole community on all of these different approaches. And the community is truly amazing. I wish this was more prominent in different in different communities as well.
Wow, so cool, so cool. Pauline, do you have any questions, by the way?
I don't have any. Like, I want to. Could you summarize this webinar and about low code, and what are your main thoughts that you want us to remember?
So I think the main parts are, just once again, don't just focus on, just don't focus on that single solution, but try to look at the whole ecosystem, as that will usually also give you the best path to solve your problem. Stay curious and think outside the box. I mean, these are things that are repeated by many people, but they are so important, and I really try to stick by them in my life, and so far it has worked out quite well. So I just wish that more people can follow that path, and I hope that message resonates with them quite well.
Okay,
and that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much for for this webinar and for you to be here.
Thank you, Paulina. Thank you, Wojciech.
Thank you very much. See you soon. I hope you're doing well, and have fun with APEX, guys.
Yes, have fun with APEX, and I hope we can all see each other at some conference, seeing that there are so many of them at some point in the future.
For sure. See ya.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.